Mohit Bhargava, the CEO at NTPC Renewables, is now joining us live on today's edition of the show. Good morning, Mr. Bhargava. There's a lot to talk to you about. I'll first begin with a larger picture of what the larger plan seems to be at NTPC as well as NTPC Renewable. There is, of course, a big plan of scaling up green energy at the company to 15 gigawatt by FY25. Before we get into asset monetization, restructuring, all of that, this target, achievable? Are you on track?
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me on the show. So let me start by answering the last one. Yes, target is achievable. Definitely, we are working on it. So on a long-term basis, you're absolutely right. NTPC is, of course, the largest power utility in the country. We supply close to 25% of the power generated in the country. What we plan to do over the next 10 years is create a renewables portfolio, which is almost as large in size as the coal-based portfolio. So the target is to do 60 gigawatt of renewable capacity by 2032. But by FY25, if we're talking about the shorter term, we plan to do around 10 to 12 gigawatts, and most of which is now in the pipeline. So we have around 2 gigawatts, which is operational. We have about 4 gigawatts, which is already under construction. We have another 5 gigawatts for which the tenders are out. And we have practically signed up the PPAs for most of this capacity or won the bids for same. So we are looking to gradually ramp up. There was some delay over the last 2 years on account of COVID, which otherwise we could have actually hit a higher number by 2025. And in terms of CAPEX, that would roughly translate to around, say, $5 billion by FY25 and another, say, around $25 billion by 2032. So that's the big plan. And needless to say, this includes renewable, meaning wind, solar, hybrid, storage, green hydrogen, green ammonia, all the things which I think everyone in the RE sector is now talking about.
Yes, they are talking about it in the renewable energy space. In fact, our previous guest, Girik Capital, were also talking about how they like NTPC. Of course, we were to see the stock price of NTPC is high by 16% year to date. But sir, I wanted to also ask you about the news that has come out recently. How, as many as 15 assets are going to be transferred to a new wholly owned subsidiary. If we look at other companies, that always seems to be a precursor for raising funds. I'm looking at other green energy companies that have done it, other companies that are going green as well. Is that what the larger plan at NTPC also could be? Create this subsidiary, transfer the assets, and then maybe monetize?
I think it's very difficult to actually hide anything from you guys. So yes, the larger plan is that, but it's kind of dovetailed into the national monetization plan of the government of India. So what we're trying to do is we are consolidating all our RE assets under a new green company, which is the NTPC Green Energy Limited. So we'll be shifting about 2.9 gigawatts of assets, which are now in the parent mother company, which is NTPC. So part of them are operational. Balance would get operational within the next maybe 8 to 10 months. So they get shifted into that. So that's about 2.9 gigawatts. Plus the current renewable arm, which is the NTPC Renewable Energy Limited, that also gets shifted under this entity. So it'll be NTPC Green Energy will be the large green holding company with some assets on its books and some new greenfield assets coming to the NTPC REL. And in the next 4 to 5 months, we are planning to monetize a part of this. So that's the larger plan.
Right. Mr. Bhargav, morning. So just taking off on that point, in the next 4 to 5 months, looking at monetizing. So let's discuss that in greater detail. Given the fact that the current market conditions remain awfully volatile, I know it's a few months down the line. You're confident that it will happen in this financial year itself, or do you think that it could spill over to FY24? Are you concerned whatsoever about the overall market conditions?
Look, so you guys always tend to ask very tricky questions. So I can only answer that right now. That's the plan, and we are on track to do that. But market volatility and all these kind of things, obviously these will be taken into account if we are getting the right numbers. So we aim to get the right set of numbers, which will be worked out over the next few days.
We don't aim to be tricky at all. We're just asking the questions in order to garner as much information as we can from you. Okay, so let's understand the value as well that you're pegging for the renewable arm. I understand that the street is currently looking at close to 35 to 40,000 crore rupees. Do you think that would be a fair assumption?
I would like to step aside from that question as well, because the merchant bankers are already in position. So what we have done so far is that we've got the government approvals for transferring the assets. Our merchant bankers also started mailing letters for seeking QI. I think they've sent out close to 100 letters. So as step one, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at a strategic investor who comes in to pick up a reasonable stake. The valuation part is still being finalized, and probably take some more time, because all these things are always, something basis what you need to arrive at this valuation. So probably it will take some more time for me or for anyone else to actually put out a number or an assessment of what we're looking at.
But eventually, what is the minimum holding NTPC would have in this arm? Is there a threshold below which you will not go?
No, so as of now, the idea, and that's why I refer to the national monetization plan. As per that plan, the control has to remain with NTPC. So eventually, and that may not happen now, that might happen after a couple of years, NTPC will retain the ownership of this entity. That's the position right now.
Open to getting a P investor, you open to getting a sovereign fund, but there are no limitations on the profile and the nature of fundraising.
As of now, no, you're right, because what we're looking at is so the mails, I believe, have been sent out to most of these large, international sovereign wealth funds, P investors, other platforms, as well as some Indian entities. So it's a large list. Like I said, close to 100 entities have been contacted, and we are at the UI stage. So we'll look at what they are offering and what they're interested in before we get into the RFP stage, which will probably have us having more binding offers and those kind of things.
The learning, at least for all of us in this high inflationary era, is that do not write off thermal. There was a time when global banks had started giving, they had stopped giving term loans to companies which were in thermal coal, which essentially were using, which were generating electricity by using thermal coal. Do you think there is going to be a change in mindset there? And that, in a sense, could also impact the way how some of the green energy business would be valued?
I don't think that will change the way the green energy business is valued, because ultimately there's no questioning the overall direction, and whether it's NTPC or whether it's India or the world at large. So we are all committed to moving down the green path. But to answer your question, and this is with the caveat that actually I had the renewables vertical. So anything I say on the thermal side needs to be taken in a distinct manner. I don't think we in India, at least, are writing away thermal, because the way the demand has grown. So we anticipate thermal to remain a strong base for how we supply power on 24/7 basis. Because even today, that's a very important thing to ensure that everyone is getting power at a reasonable rate. So in our case, coal-based power is the most optimal solution. But going forward, we always see that renewable in terms of overall mix in the supply. So for example, if you look at it today, the renewables, including hydro, make up around 20% of the overall supply mix. So that number, even the way Honorable Prime Minister mentioned at Glasgow, is set for significant increase over the next 8 years. So the direction is very clear. And that remains the case for us also. As I said, 60 gigawatt by 2032. And this is again a number which might be under review if things are actually on track for a much faster rate of growth.
We'll have to wrap it